Hey, Brent Porcio, TopVelocity.net. Going to do a 3x pitch biometric analysis of Caden here from camp. This is the first time I'm using the new Generation 3 40 motion sensors. This is a 6 sensor setup. We'll have a 12 sensor setup by the summer, which I'm really excited about because there is some obviously limitations when we don't have our body recorded, but this creates, I'm still able to interpret a lot of what's going on. So let's come into the leg lift. As you can see, we're not getting the lower legs or the glove arm. So as coming out of leg lift, it is hard to tell how Caden is striding because we can't see the distance between the 2 feet. But we do see, which is something that's very interesting, and it's what I kind of like about something that's, a little bit more focused on just one area. Like we're more focused just on the hip and core at this point. If I take the free tool, drawing tool here, you can see most of the movement was just here in the front leg. And this femur wasn't really doing much. You don't see a lot of abduction of the hip. You even see this turning over as this moves out, which means things are going pretty early in rotation, which is not what we want. We want to delay rotation as long as we can. So as you can see, when that front leg femur goes out, you see the pelvis rotating. So if we put in hip line, shoulder line, we can see as that front femur goes like pretty quickly out of leg lift. Look at the hip rotation quickly following it. And we can even see that drive leg femur going. So quick to open and put down, which means he's going to be very rotational, which is why Caden gets the hips to open. And because it goes early and fairly quick, it does create some separation. But at the same time, too, because it's so quick, it creates what we call hyperangulation. You can see when he squares up, that throwing arm elbow is getting behind the back. So when things are so rotational and so dominant in rotation, the arm can very easily get behind that, or what we call hyperangulated, and that puts the arm in a very vulnerable position as torque starts to hit the arm. So Caden needs to understand how to delay rotation. So if you look at the red line, the pelvis shouldn't immediately start to open up. It should actually counter-rotate here, going the other way as he sits and abducts the drive leg femur. There's not much abduction going on. So if we look at, and see if we can get some of the hip movements in here. Actually, those are pelvis movements. Let's see if we can get anything in the femur right now. Hip angles. We can see, did I even get it? I don't think I got it. Hip angles, turn off the movements. We can see abduction, right abduction there, which is the green arrow. At this point where the arm is starting to cock, we can see only 26 degrees of abduction, which is really, really poor. Should be something like 40, 45. You can also see inflection coming out of leg lift. The hip flexion's 33 degrees and quickly going into extension, because things are rotating. So we can see not really sitting in the back leg, delaying rotation, quick to open and start rotation in the hips. And the problem is if you do that, the delaying rotation in the lower half is your ability to create more linear force, linear momentum towards the target, which he's not, Caden, you're not doing well here. So at this point here where the hip's coming around, you don't see a lot of extension forces through the hip, meaning like right here, if we go back to actually that graph, we can see the hip extension, the right hip, is only 3 degrees at front foot strike. I mean, if we're in a good 90% of our height stride, we should be somewhere like 25 degrees at this point. So things are he's very vertical and standing up. Even though I like how the trunk is staying closed, we said, but still the trunk, the arm is even early to cock, as you can see as he hits front foot here, even though the shoulders are closed. The arm, is already quickly going into external rotation, which is all due to everything going early. So everything's early in the process. The arm is cocking early, the hips are opening early, the arm is laying back early, And we're trying to delay all this. We want to be late to drive the hips. We want to be late to cock the arm. We want to be late to open the trunk. And everything is going pretty early here. So we can see when forces hit the arm at external rotation, look how far in a contralateral position that Caden is. If we look at the torso angles, or actually let's go into the chest angles, we can see the contralateral position, the lean towards the arm side, is 51 degrees. That's as excessive as it can get. Here's the problem. Anything past 25, studies show the velocity stops going up, because there's an improvement in velocity as you lean to your glove size, but when you pass 25 degrees, what happens is the velocity stops going up due to that movement, and the torques keep going up. So the torques are going to be as high as they could possibly be here, and it's actually going to be working against velocity. So why is the trunk this far to the arm side or glove side? Is because, like we said, going back, everything went into rotation early, so the power of the movement is mainly in rotation. So that's why he keeps pulling and falling arm side. I mean, it even gets crazy over here after he releases. Look how far his arm is across the body. Okay. So I'm more concerned about the elbow stress here than the shoulder stress. I mean, the arm does kind of pop up here, which could lead to some impingement issues. But we've got to get to the point where if we create more linear forces out of leg lift, if we get more linear momentum going forward and we delay rotation to do that, then when the trunk gets to here and starts to go to release, it will be more square to the target, obviously towards the contralateral side, but no more than 25 degrees, and more energy will be pushing forward and not well off to the glove side, which is why even here you can see he's kicking the leg up to prevent from spinning off to glove side because he's so rotational. Okay. So, I mean, I like the movements. I like the ability to have, I mean, when you see trunk separation, trunk delay, I think, you know, that's a key plus in the delivery. So he understands how to sequence against the hip and shoulder. And you can see it showing here. This is where the hip speeds are peaking and the trunk speeds are peaking here. So we have the beginning of good sequencing. The problem just seems to be it's sequencing mainly through rotation. We don't have a lot of linear forces, linear power supporting the movement. So that's really the key for Caden is learning and developing the more linear forces through delaying rotation, building longer strides, getting more powerful is going to be really key for him going forward.